Welcome. Today we're going to talk about the reason the Roman Republic fell and became an empire, but more importantly, the beginning of Rome's problems that would actually end the empire itself. We're all linking it to one man in particular here. There could be numerous people, though, who could be blamed for this. Most commonly, it's Julius Caesar. Sometimes, every now and then, Marius. But I think, in my opinion, the man who deserves the blame is Sulla the Worm, as I'm calling him. Sulla the Worm. This is something of a Halloween special, as we're going to discuss Rome's first monster. I hope you enjoy it. Rome, right, was not built in a day, but neither did it fall in a day. Important figures, right, such as the Gracchi brothers, the Marius, Sulla, can all be blamed for the fall of the Republic. Certainly, it was Julius Caesar who delivered the final death blow, but he could not have done so had the groundwork not already been laid for the takeover of the government. Who was the most pivotal in the devolution of the Roman Republic to empire, right? The answer could be any of these men. But Lucius Cornelius Sulla provides perhaps the most interesting take on these events. Cornelius Sulla's appetite for power and systematic exploitation of the Roman legal system showed his successors, such as Julius Caesar, not only how power could be taken, but also how truly absolute such ruthless dynamism could be. The context that set the stage for the prodigium of Sulla was a Roman world that had endured centuries of turmoil. The Roman Republic was an elected oligarchy of elites. Under their rule, an undying battle for power between the plebeians or the peasants and the patricians or the nobles had embroiled the nation in perpetual disarray. Ultimately, the efforts of reformers, among them the Gracchi brothers and all others who fought for these social reforms to increase the rights of the plebeians, and the efforts, right, of all the patricians, right, who fought to deny the plebeians those rights, only served to create a chaos, right, that could be exploited, right, by an evil man. Remember that. When political parties are fighting each other, chaos opens up opportunity for very bad actors. And we're going to try to learn some lessons as we go through this today. That societal conflict, though, between the peasants and the nobles, in the end, served neither side, and none achieved victory in this struggle for power. Instead, ultimately, chaos led to order, right? And not the good kind, right? Not an order with shared power or equality of classes, but an order of an iron fist. The long-feared return of the Rex, or the king, had returned, right? A new world in which all became losers in their fight, and only one man the victor. The weakness of the Republic gave birth to the power of the tyrant. It was Gaius Marius who first claimed this power by exploiting the arbitrary legal system of Rome to become the dominant figure in Roman politics, achieving an unrivaled 7 consulships, right, that he would normally be elected to. Okay, take a look at this guy. He looks like some kind of golem. Scary looking dude. Marius, who had used political machinations to seize and maintain power, was to only be outdone by one man, Sulla. Okay? Marius had passed a law that said soldiers are not for no longer to be loyal to the Republic, but rather the generals they serve under. Right? Those men, those soldiers don't belong to the Republic, they belong to the generals they serve under. That one law allowed Sulla to come and create devastation, All right, so it's crazy to see how one law can lead to something horrific happening. Marius, though, who had used political machinations to seize power, was to be outdone by Sulla. War had once again come to Rome. Mithridates, the sixth, a Greek king of Pontus, had staged a rebellion and sought to liberate the Greek world from Roman rule. Go Greeks! Doesn't work out so well, though. The Senate eventually appointed Sulla to put down this revolt. Marius, however, used his political power to overturn this decision to send Sulla there, and used his political power to anoint him the one who would be going to fight Mithridates. What occurred next was an unthinkable act of treason. Sulla, unwilling to give up command of the army of this invading force to attack the Greeks, ousted Marius. He took over the city of Rome with his military and ousted Marius and regained command of the military. This was the first time in Roman history that a Roman general would march on Rome. A fatal precedent that showed Julius Caesar and those that followed that power could be taken by war against one's own country. Marius and his ally Lucius Cornelius Cinna would take power in Rome upon the leave of Sulla to fight the Greeks, right? Marius would die shortly after, right? He regained power, and Cinna would assume command of the consulship of Rome. Sulla, however, was yet to be finished with his illegal assaults on Roman sovereignty. Sulla and his Rome with Mithridates in Greece would commit atrocities. He would burn the fabled city of Athens to the ground and achieve victory over Mithridates. He then set his sights back on Rome. He returned with his legions and initiated a civil war that would embroil all of Italy. Roman forces fought desperately to repel Sulla, but they eventually fell. Rome had been conquered for the first time by a Roman. A deadly precedent had been set that would plague Roman civilization until its end. Legality was now irrelevant, for any man who possessed an army could become master of Rome. There's a picture of Sulla here. He doesn't look so great either. Wonder why his nose is missing. He wasn't well liked, let's just say that. Sulla quickly defeated the Roman Senate and had the Roman Senate proclaim him dictator for life, right? He ended elections and became emperor in all but name. But his sacrilege of Roman virtues and values was far from complete. Plutarch writes on Sulla, "Great powers bring about a change in their holders, a change in the direction of overexcitability, pomposity, and inhumanity." A change in the direction was not really that big of a change in direction. We know he committed atrocities in Greece, and now he was bringing himself to commit them here. Sulla, whoever that man had once been, when he was younger, whatever, before he took control of the army, whoever that man was now gone, and instead evil filled the vacuum. Sulla now devoted himself entirely to the work of butchery, in the words of Plutarch. Mass crucifixion and genocide occurred. Sulla had spilt Roman blood and waged war on his own people to take and maintain power, plunging headfirst into the monstrosity of darkness. Thirst for power transformed Sulla into a proliferator of evil. As Plutarch remarked, when a man is in power, the evil that has been latent in him reveals itself openly. So it was that this evil burst from him like a fountain. Sulla, upon his victory in Rome, rounded up 6,000 prisoners of war and had them butchered in the circus. His iniquity then became promulgated by law. with a decree that all who opposed him were to be slaughtered. Thus began a rapacious butchery of the people of Rome. The Senate, striving to make sense of the chaos, wished to know who would be killed and who would be spared, who would live and who would die. And so Sulla started writing lists for them, a hit list. Each day, a new list would be written by Sulla containing the names of hundreds of people he wished murdered. A substantial bounty was placed on the head of each person on the list. And so Rome became filled with headhunters willing to do their master's bidding. These lists, in the words of Plutarch, were published not only in Rome, but in every city in Italy. No place remained undefiled by murder, neither temple of God, nor hearth of hospitality, nor ancestral home. Husbands were slaughtered in the embraces of their wedded wives, sons in the arms of their mothers. The terror of Sulla spread far beyond Rome, across every corner of Italy. After a millennium of policing the villainous, all Rome found that murder was not only now legal, but a state-sanctioned action and rewarded activity. The climax would occur in the unfortunate town of Praeneste. The city was to play host to Sulla, who deemed them all rebellious. He put each citizen on trial until, growing tired of the proceedings, I'll quote Plutarch here, he herded them all together in one place and gave orders that the whole lot of them, 12,000 in all, should be slaughtered. All right? Instead of putting everyone on trial, he just says, whatever, we'll just kill them all. Kill the whole town. Murder everybody in it. Sulla's other prolific activity was debauchery, right? Not uncommon for later Roman emperors. Copious drinking and a sedentary lifestyle would be accompanied by a voracious appetite for extramarital affairs with women and transvestite individuals. Perhaps sensing his impending demise or punishment for his sins, he would then, in bizarre fashion, throw a triumph or a military parade for himself, and then renounce his position as dictator for life. We're like, all right, I'm done. I'm done with dictator for life. He would then try to change the law so that no dictator could follow his path and do what he did to Rome. I think what is occurring here isn't so much him realizing the damage he's done, but that he's afraid of the gods and the wrath of the gods. Sulla, all his attempts to rectify the damage he had done to the Republic were for naught, right? Whether through divine justice or perhaps divine smite or karmic justice, whatever you want to call it, Sulla would meet an end fitting of his hideous nature. Ulcers, as Plutarch attributes, his alcoholism and sexual activities resulted in, and we'll quote him here, his whole flesh becoming corrupted and turning into worms. Many people were employed day and night in removing these worms, but they increased far more frequently than could be removed. Indeed, they came swarming out in such numbers that all his clothing, baths, hand basins, and food became infected with the corruption of the worm. He tried to clean and scour himself by having frequent baths throughout the day, but it was no use. The flesh changed to worms too quickly, and no washing away could keep pace with their numbers. Sulla died, eaten alive by worms. The new consul, Lepidus, with large support, wished to deprive the corpse of Sulla of funeral honors. Pompey, however, intervened, and Sulla did get a traditional state funeral. The literal worms, right, which is probably from a botfly infestation. This is terrifying flies that lay eggs inside of you and then just they all burst out. The literal worms, though, that emerged from Sulla's flesh paled in comparison to the metaphorical worms that he had spawned, right? Just as he had corrupted Roman society, corrupted his own country, so too did worms corrupt him, right? Just as these parasites had devoured his body, so too would evil men following in the same path as Sulla infest and consume Roman society. The unimaginable evil of Sulla would become the new normal for Roman leadership. Maniacal behavior went from an aberration to an expectation. Many men, following Sulla's example, would seize power by force or commit heinous massacres upon their own citizens. Julius Caesar would seize power by force. Later on, Nero, Caligula, Domitian, Caracalla, Maximus, Commodus, Diocletian, all were several Roman leaders who just a few of them, who followed in the footsteps of Sulla in terms of massacres and persecution of people and genocide. Sulla had set a precedent that would see Roman leaders become and remembered as the most maleficent in human history. The Roman expectation, all these old values of pietas, of severitas, all these other virtues gave way to a world where the morality of Roman leaders could be better described with words such as paranoia, right? Barbarity, insanity. Sulla had been the first to subvert the law and the Senate and to march on Rome and to seize it by force. He was the first leader to eliminate elections and have himself appointed leader for life. He was also the first leader of Rome to maintain power by butchering any he deemed a threat through genocide. Sulla's actions had revealed a path to power that would quickly become a thoroughfare. Legality had been rendered obsolete by the power of the sword. His example would be immediately followed by Julius Caesar just 32 years later, after Sulla, right, to officially end the Roman Republic. The precedent set by Sulla not only led to the downfall of the Roman Republic, but would be an affliction on Roman civilization for its duration and the eventual demise of the Roman Empire in a period of the barracks emperors, a period of warring generals, when the life expectancy was tiny for a Roman emperor because they were constantly overthrowing each other. It was a period of instability, civil war, and anarchy that lasted roughly 50 years, all inspired by the actions of Sulla many years earlier. The scourge of the Roman imperial culture that Sulla had created would not be eliminated until Constantine the Great ruled nearly 400 years later. By that time, only the complete removal of leadership from the barbaric culture of Rome and the switch to a completely different religion could end the imperial Roman culture of debauchery and genocide. Sulla had infested Rome very early on. It would cause the downfall of the Republic and eventually the empire by setting a horrific example for future leaders to take power and, with barbarity, with genocide, maintain political power. Folks, I hope you enjoyed this short episode on Sulla the Worm, right? It's not a name that game, that's just what I'm calling him, Sulla the Worm, right? Because he's a corrupter and he was corrupted himself by worms, right? He is the fellow I personally pinpoint for the reason why the Republic would fall and starting a culture and trend of barbarity, right? That would later end the Roman Empire and the idea that, hey, anybody can take power in Rome You just got to have an army. And people did. Generals did. They attacked, they invaded, they overthrew the emperor, replaced him with themselves, and then they get overthrown by the next general that came with an army. A terrible culture, right, that was only ended by the relocation of the capital and the changing of the religion. Folks, I hope you enjoyed this. I'll be doing more on Rome and Greece and in the future. We got one coming up on heroes of ancient Greece and the heroic age of Greece and what that meant for that Greek society to have so many heroes, and as well what that means for our society, right? How can we look at Greek society in this age of heroes and compare it to ourselves today? We'll also take a look at Roman society. Who were the Romans, right? Who were the Romans? Romanitas, right? Who were the Roman people in general? And then we'll look at, we will take a look next at the creation of the medieval period, right? How do we get from Rome to the Middle Ages, like the medieval period? And we'll talk about that. We'll do an episode on that. And then one that is requiring a ton of research is we'll do a video on the transition from Hellenism, or the Olympian religion, the ancient Greek religion, the transition of that to Christianity, how it occurred, what it was like, etc. I hope you enjoyed watching. You folks have a great rest of your day.